Today, we're diving into a skill that's, well, it's becoming absolutely essential: how to talk to AI. But here's the interesting part. What if getting better at talking to a computer is actually about getting much, much better at understanding your own mind? So let's start with a feeling that I bet is pretty familiar to you. You've got this amazingly powerful AI right at your fingertips. You ask it to do something, and what you get back is, frankly, just boring. It's kind of useless. Why does that happen? It's a frustration so many of us have felt.
The reason for that frustration is actually pretty simple. We tend to treat AI like it's a magic wand or just another search engine. We throw these short, vague commands at it. Write me this, explain that. And we just hope it'll read our minds and do all the heavy lifting for us. But that's just not how this works.
And this brings us to the real shift in thinking we need to make. The problem isn't that the AI is weak or broken. Not at all. The problem is that our thinking is often unstructured. The AI is basically a mirror. It can only reflect the clarity, or, the clutter, that we give it in the first place.
So yeah, let's really dig into this idea of the AI mirror. The core concept here is that these incredible tools don't just create brilliance out of thin air. No, they amplify and they give structure to the raw material that we provide.
There's actually a really powerful concept from Indian philosophy that just perfectly describes this state of unstructured thinking. It's called avyavasta. It's this mental state that lacks a system, lacks clarity, lacks any real direction. And when we approach AI from that state, well, it can only give us a disordered, messy response in return.
Okay, so if we want to get better results, we have to stop thinking like a human and start thinking a little bit more like the AI does. And what that really means is understanding that it doesn't process language the way we do. For an AI, it's all about recognizing patterns. Let's quickly break down how an AI thinks. First, it doesn't really see words, it sees tokens, which are basically small fragments of text. Second, it doesn't have a permanent memory. It only remembers the context of your current conversation. And finally, and this is the most important piece of the puzzle, it desperately needs structure to make sense of anything.
And this idea of context, it's absolutely crucial. Every AI has something called a context window. The analogy of a blackboard is just perfect here. As you write on it, it starts to fill up, right? To add new information at the bottom, you have to erase the oldest stuff at the top. So if your most important instruction was way back at the beginning of a long chat, the AI might have literally forgotten it. Okay, so keeping all of that in mind, how do we give the AI the clear structure it needs to work properly? Well, thankfully, there's a really powerful and surprisingly easy-to-remember framework that does exactly that. It's called the RCTNO framework, and honestly, this is your key to unlocking clarity. By defining the role, the context, the task, the negative constraints, what to avoid, and the desired output, you're giving that AI mirror a crystal-clear, high-definition image to reflect back at you.
And just look at the difference this makes. It's night and day. The vague prompt on the left, write a post, is going to get you a generic, completely useless response. But the structured prompt on the right, it gives the AI everything it needs: a persona, the background story, a super clear task, and specific instructions on how to present the information. The results you get will be worlds apart.
This right here is the fundamental shift in mindset. When you start using a framework like RCTNO, you move from being a passive person, just kind of asking for something, to an active commander. You're directing the AI's powerful capabilities with real precision and purpose. Now, once you get comfortable with that basic framework, you can unlock even more powerful ways of thinking with AI. This is where we get into some really cool advanced strategies like chain of thought and tree of thoughts. And knowing when to use each one is key. Chain of thought is your go-to for linear, logical problems. Think of it like showing your work in math class. You literally tell the AI, think step by step, and it will lay out its entire logical process for things like coding or solving an equation. But tree of thoughts, that's different. That's for brainstorming, for strategy. You ask it to explore multiple viewpoints at the same time, kind of like a panel of experts, to tackle those complex questions that don't have a single right answer. So as we start to put all these pieces together, a really surprising truth starts to emerge. Learning how to prompt an AI isn't really about learning to talk to a machine. It's actually a masterclass in how to structure our own thinking. There's a startling statistic out there that suggests 90% of people who get frustrated and give up on AI do so for one simple reason. They just don't provide enough structure.
They approach it expecting a mind reader, but what they really have is an incredibly powerful but very literal-minded assistant.
The AI, just like so many complex systems in life, rewards a very specific set of virtues. It rewards clarity of thought. It rewards the patience to actually refine your request, the discipline to apply structure, and the focus to define what your true intent is. And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway from all of this. The skills you build by learning to prompt an AI, how to break down a big problem, how to provide context, define goals, and anticipate outcomes. These are the exact same skills that lead to better decisions and clearer communication in every part of your life.
It all really comes down to this simple idea. Mastering prompts isn't about mastering AI. It's about mastering your own thinking. When you take the time to structure a prompt, you're not just commanding a machine. You are putting your own awareness into action.
So the next time you're facing a complex problem, whether you're talking to an AI or just thinking to yourself, I'll leave you with this question to consider. How will you structure your next thought?